think I've made a little bit of a mistake here. I was planning on stacking those UVs and then reducing the size of them, but if I reduce them too aggressively, it'll probably show up here. So I think what I'll do is I'm just going to break these faces off, and we just won't compress them. That should be fine. And it'll be clear what I'm talking about here in a second. So we can see those like that. Let's go ahead and we'll just do a automatic, or sorry, not automatic, I want to do camera based. So now I can reduce this size in the UV shell and you'll never see it. It'll be totally fine. But I don't want those to be reduced because then they might not support the normal map and do some of the other work that they need to do. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and I guess the next thing that I would want to consider is, do I actually want this stuff here to be its own UVs, or do I want them to be stacked? Right now they're going to be stacked. That's probably fine. The geo's identical on both sides, so I'm not really that worried about it. As far as the orientation here goes, we could probably adjust that and do a little bit of a layout on it, or an unfold, I mean. Cool. That's, if this is getting in the way for whatever reason, we can go in there and, like, you know, make our little Pizza Huts right here or something. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab everything. We'll zoom out and we'll do a layout, and we'll just take a look at the options for layout here. So the important ones are, I want to preserve 3D ratios. I'm going to fix non-manifold geometry. There shouldn't be any, but you never know. And then make sure our pixels are at 16 and our texture map size is 2048. And we'll just hit apply. And here we can see the result. So I know that these two shells here are the internal shells. And you can see they're just not that easy to see. You can get in there and glance at it, but it's not really prominent. So I don't really want them to be as big as they currently are. So I'm going to go ahead and remove them. And then we've got this piece too that we just isolated. That's on the inside there that you also can't really see. So we'll move that over there. What's this one? Okay, yeah, that one you can definitely see. Oh, and there might be, what's this guy? Did we already pull him off? Yeah, okay, cool. All right, so these are the shells that we're gonna make smaller, and everything else here is gonna be full size. So I'm just gonna go ahead and make this a little bit bigger so we can see what we're doing. We do another layout. And so we've got things like this, which are kind of weird. So let's just straighten those UVs. Straighten these UVs. Let me just double check which piece this is. Yeah, okay. I wasn't sure if it was something that we needed to mirror over. It looks like maybe that'd be a possibility, but it's not too strange of a shape there. Those are all fine. They're so small, it doesn't really matter how they pack. All right, so I did make a couple little changes there. I'm going to go back in and we'll just do another layout. I feel like this could probably rotate a little bit. All right, so the idea now would be we want to grab this stuff. You can already see, having removed them, how much more textile density I'm getting. Obviously, I don't want them completely gone. They're going to need to be back in here, but they're not going to need to be as big. So I'm just going to eyeball it. We've got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5-ish. So let's just try to make it so that they're like 3. So that might be a little bit better. And I think we're probably going to need to just come in and do another layout. But in this case, I'm not sure if this will work. Whoops. It's definitely not going to work if I don't change the option. So now I want to basically disable that shell prescaling. And ideally, these things will stay small and everything else will stay relatively the same size. I don't know. We'll find out in a second. Yeah, never mind. I just think I forgot something. All right. So once again, what I want is the stuff that's going to be visible is going to be big, and the stuff that's going to be less visible is going to be as small as possible while still sort of preserving whatever it is. And I just kind of eyeballed like a 50% reduction based on the number of units that it's taking. So I'm going to select all the stuff, hold the Shift key, go to Layout, and I'm going to turn Shell Prescaling off. I think I had it off, but then I hit the button, so it didn't actually use the options. I need to hit the button in the tool itself, so we're going to turn that off. And if I hit Apply here, what you can see is it keeps them small, and it just sort of packs everything in. So that is probably going to be our best case scenario in terms of textile density, I think. I mean, there's always ways that you could make it maybe a little bit bigger, but I don't see anything super obvious. There's kind of a lot of empty space, but I think we might just have to live with it. That's all right. I guess these things can maybe get a little bit bigger. We can do another pack and see what happens. Let's do it from the menu. So yeah, I don't know if we're really getting anything. I think it probably just that probably just cost us. So how do we know how much it cost us? So if I click this UV shell and I go to transform, there's this thing here called textile density, so I can get it. So right now I'm getting 164 pixels per unit, or textiles per unit. So what that means is if this blade is 1 unit long, I'm getting 164 pixels in it. It's probably significantly bigger than that. I don't really know. This is like a relative measurement. So for instance, if I was to grab this one and I hit get, you can see it's 76. So it's much less. So that's kind of what we're looking for. It's like the stuff that you can't see should have a lower textile density than the stuff that you can see. And the stuff that you can see should all be pretty consistent. So it's going to be 164, 166. Yeah, so those two textiles are not going to make a big difference. So for now, I think that's going to be okay. We can always come back and play with it if we want. In fact, once we get into texturing, we may decide that we need to for some reason or another. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and try to use the final couple of minutes here to duplicate over the stuff that needs to be duplicated over. So we've got this knife blade here. I'm going to go ahead and we'll just do another mirror operation. And I'm just going to turn this off for now. And let's try going the other direction with it. There we go. So it's either going to mirror from this side to this side or from this side to this side. And if you go from a side that has no faces to a side that has some faces, it's going to want to delete all the faces, but it won't. It's like legally not allowed to. So it'll keep one. So that's basically what was going on there. So if I hit undo there and I set this to negative, it's trying to go from this side to this side, but there's nothing over here. So it does the operation that's like, oh, well, I've got to leave at least one face, but it's trying to nuke them all. So that's what's going on. So just set this to positive, and there we go. So that's fine. And here's kind of what just happened. Let me go back to my UVs. So if I click on this side, that's where the UVs are. And if I click on this side, the UVs are in the same place. So this piece of geo and this piece of geo, the geometry is separate, but they're using the exact same UVs. So that's kind of where the win comes in. You can't see one side from the other, so you'll never know, and we don't have to pay for the textile density loss that we would normally need to in order to support all that stuff. So there's that, and then we've got to also, the piece I'm looking for I think is down here. Let me optimize some of the stuff that's kind of getting out of hand. All right, cool. So there we go for this. Let me hit F to kind of zoom in on it. So we're going to do the exact same thing. Go to mirror, go to the options, hit apply. Okay, cool. So now that we've duplicated the geo, we need to weld the pieces together. So we'll just do mesh combine. For some reason there was a problem with that. Let's try again. Mesh combine. Great, okay, and then I'm going to do a merge. So now those verts are all welded. And now I'm going to do the same thing over here. Mesh combine. And then merge the verts. So there is the optimized UV layout pass version 1.0. Again, we may come back to it and modify it, which would be a little bit of a hassle because we've got some sort of specific things going on here, but it may be necessary. So that's just the way it's going to be. I'm going to go through and delete the history, and then we can rename stuff. So we've got our blade low, and then what's this thing here? That's our spacer. And everything else looks just fine. Great. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to go ahead and talk about how the geo needs to be exported, the hyperlog geo needs to be exported in order to get decent looking bakes in Substance Painter.